So I just finished Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I have to say, I'm a fan. Yes, they changed a lot of things from the original series, some of which made the show worse, but I still found myself enjoying the series and wanting a season 2 at the end. And as of this recording, today, a season 2 and a season 3 were just announced. So in this video, we're going to be discussing what a season 2 of the series could look like and how it can build off of the first season and improve. So first, let's just talk about certain season 2 episodes and plot points from the original series that have to be included, no questions asked. Season 2 is a huge season in terms of plot for the Avatar series, so there are a lot of things that need to be included. Jumping right in, episode 1 of season 2, Avatar State, is pretty important. We don't need to dedicate a whole episode to this, but I think it would work as a good subplot. Originally, an Earth Kingdom general goes overboard trying to bring out Aang's Avatar State to help them for an invasion. But I feel like if this gets adapted, it might get toned down. I think the general idea of requesting Aang's Avatar State is good because we know he can't really do it at this point. It'll further push the narrative that Aang is behind in his Avatar duties. It'll add even more pressure for him, and I think it'll be good for his character. But I'm not sure the live action would include the general doing all of those crazy tactics to bring the Avatar State out. I think it may just have Aang admit that he can't do it, and after a while, the general would just give up on Aang. That would take a pretty big toll on him. He already feels like the war is kind of his fault, and I imagine he'd be very motivated to improve. The next episode that should be included is the Cave of Two Lovers, but only Zuko and Iroh's scenes because we already got the secret tunnel adapted. We should see how Iroh and Zuko are living post-Northern Water Tribe and pre-Bossing Se. And these scenes would be very easy to just toss into episode 1 or 2 of the live action. Just while Aang and his crew are doing something, just give us a few scenes of Zuko and Iroh. I mean, it's what they've been doing for all of season 1 pretty much. But yeah, nothing much there. We just need to see more of Zuko and Iroh's relationship as it continues to grow. Episode 3, Return to Omashu, definitely has to be adapted in some form, because this is when we realize that Omashu is under the Fire Nation, and Bumi can't be the one to teach Aang. This of course builds up to Toph's introduction. Azula also plays a role in this one, and this should make it to the live action. Again, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time in Omashu, but we do need to establish that Bumi can't teach Aang, and we need Azula to do something menacing here to build her up as a threat. Moving on, the Swamp episode is another one where we can kind of just pluck out a few things. This episode has more scenes of Zuko and Iroh adjusting to life on the run, which should get adapted and tossed into an episode. But the main plot of this episode being the Swamp Benders, I'm not so sure they're gonna get adapted. Season 2 is packed with important plot moments, and this one can be seen as kind of skippable. The only thing we'd have to address is Aang getting the vision of Toph, because he got it in the swamp, but this could be easily rewritten as just another Avatar vision like he's been having in the live action. We could also skip most of Avatar Day because Aang already has enough people saying that he abandoned the world and everything is his fault and all that. What we really need from this episode though is Zuko leaving Uncle Iroh and trying to find his own path. Pretty self-explanatory, it's something we need to see. Then I'm thinking the Blind Bandit episode could get combined with Zuko alone. Two unrelated plot lines, but my vision is the episode cutting back and forth between the gang and then Zuko's perspective. That way we can further the plot by adding Toph while further developing live-action Zuko, all in one episode. But moving on, we have the chase. I think this is a must include. This shows us more of Ty Lee, May, and of course Azula, while fleshing out the relationship between the gang. Toph goes on her own after an argument, and she stumbles upon Iroh, who's secretly been following Zuko. They shared some tea, had a great conversation. This moment specifically needs to be there. It's great for both Iroh and Toph's character. And of course the finale, where everyone is there, should be adapted in some way. Bitter Work is up next, and it can mainly be glossed over. Just adapt a scene or two of Toph training Aang, and show me Iroh teaching Zuko to redirect lightning. And also, include the scene where Zuko yells at the sky. That's a great scene. Moving on, we have the library. This is interesting because we already saw the owl, but this is also where Sokka finds out about the eclipse, which becomes the basis of the invasion plan, so it's pretty important. Also, this episode plants the seeds for Appa's kidnapping if they decide to adapt that storyline. So I think this episode should in part be adapted, but I'm curious to how they'd go about it. Then we have Desert and Serpent's Pass, and those two should definitely be included. The Desert introduces the White Lotus and develops the gang, while Serpent's Pass would bring back Suki. Then I think the drill in the City of Walls and Secrets could maybe get adapted together. It could get a bit crowded, but that's a sacrifice we might have to make when trying to adapt all of these episodes, because they're all so good and they're very necessary. But moving on, we have Tales of Ba Sing Se. I don't think I need to even say this, but this is a must include. It was great to see Katara and Toph get closer after their big argument. Sokka's part was cool, Zuko's part was fun, along with Aang's, and Momo's part was great as well. But what we really need is Iroh's part adapted. I want to see him go around Ba Sing Se, just helping people, and then eventually celebrating the birthday of his son. Basically, I'd be cool with a one-for-one remake of Iroh's part in Tales of Ba Sing Se. Of course, some things could be changed, but the main gist of Iroh helping people, and then mourning the fact that he couldn't help his son, is something I really want to see in live action. The only thing I might want them to change is singing Leaves from the Vine. I've seen a lot of people say that if they recreate the scene, Iroh shouldn't sing. I think for the live action, Iroh could still say, "If only I could have helped you," referring to his son, but then instead of singing Leaves from the Vine, we just get the piano version that played in the funeral scene, and Uncle Iroh begins to break down. It's a great way to pay respect to Mako, and I think it would just work better for live action. But moving on, we've reached the final 5 episodes of the season, and they all have some important scenes. But because we can't include everything, some of these storylines will likely get combined or altered to fit Netflix's format. But here are the main plot points that I think should at least get touched on as subplots if anything else. If Netflix decides to go with the Appa storyline, we should get a few scenes of him traveling alone, separated from the gang. Just like some Zuko and Iroh scenes, it would be easy to just toss in a few Appa alone scenes into an episode while the gang are doing something else. Then we also need a few parts from the Lake Logai episode, specifically Iroh convincing Zuko to free Appa. They could also bring back the Freedom Fighters, as they did play a role in this episode. And we also probably need some of the brainwashing Ba Sing Se scenes mixed in there, and show us Zuko getting very sick from his spiritual crisis after freeing Appa. I think that's what they called it. But now we've reached one of my favorite episodes, The Guru. I really wanted to see this one get adapted, but I'm not so sure it will. Originally, the Guru helped Aang master the Avatar state, or at least he was supposed to, but Aang wasn't willing to let go of Katara. It was an interesting moment for his character, but now that Netflix has changed the Avatar state, I don't think it'll be the same. In the live action, Aang can only use the Avatar state when he's in the presence of an Avatar shrine. And when he fights Ozai, odds are there won't be a shrine laying around. So I don't know if they'll adapt the Guru storyline, which focuses on the Avatar state, if the Avatar state might not play a big role in the future of the series. I hope it does get adapted at least partially, because I really liked the Guru, and I liked what he did for Aang's character. And finally, we have the last episode of Season 2, The Crossroads of Destiny. This is the big final fight, but it's also the moment of Zuko's decision. I'd be okay with pretty much a one-to-one adaptation of this episode, if I'm being real. They can tweak a few things, but keep the general structure the same. This was a great finale that set us up perfectly for Season 3, and that's it. Looking back, I realize I selected a few scenes from almost every episode of Season 2, but they're all just so necessary for the plot. Netflix is obviously going to pick and choose certain subplots to cut out completely, and that's okay. You can't adapt everything. And they'll also have to find a way to combine these storylines without making it feel too cluttered, but they did a solid job of that in Season 1, so I think it'll be fine. But that's going to be the video. Let me know what you want to see in Season 2 of Netflix's live-action Avatar, and let me know any storylines you would personally cut out of the live action. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.